Good afternoon. Thank you all for joining us for our first Entrepreneur Speaker Series. I am Shanika Turner. I am Assistant Professor of Business Administration here at Georgia Highlands College. I will be the moderator for this series. Today, I am honored to introduce our guest speaker, Carl Ulysses. Carl is a graduate of Morehouse College. It was at Morehouse where he fell in love with the art of sewing. In 2009, Carl moved to New York City where he resided for 4 years and tailored for both celebrities and personal clientele. Carl Ulysses returned to his home state of Georgia in 2013 and tailored for his first film, Barely Lethal. Since then, Carl has made his mark in the film industry as a tailor for more than 30 television shows and films, with Black Panther being one of the most prestigious films that he has worked on today. On August 19, 2017, the Carl Ulysses showroom opened to the public. It is located in walking distance from the shops at Buckhead. We are so very pleased to have Carl with us today. The next voice that you will hear will be of Carl Ulysses.
Learning how to appreciate and to uh, really put forth my best in each and every day. Uh, so, sports was a really big thing for me throughout all of my life. I made straight A's probably until senior year of high school and played varsity baseball, varsity basketball. Actually, this is where I actually met Shanika. She and I were in the marching band at Riverdale High School, and we became really good friends. And band and sports were meant everything to me. They're the reason I really went to school, um, and the reason that I wore a smile on my face every day. But junior year of high school is when I actually started to think about what I wanted to do in the future. And it actually had nothing to do with entrepreneurship. I wanted to be a Major League Baseball player. I was a pitcher, and I probably threw in the mid to high 90s consistently. Um, and fast forward to my senior year, my mother, who was actually on this Zoom call as well, she actually made a decision and said, Carl, you need to focus on one sport. At that time, I was probably had a 3.9 GPA. Um, I was really, really good I loved science and I loved math, but I still wanted to go to the major leagues. We received a pitching coach that year, my senior year. This was back in 2001, well, 2000 to 2001. And the pitching coach actually told me that I needed to start to lift weights and really to increase my strength. So I started lifting weights, and soon into lifting weights, I messed up my shoulder. So I dropped from the mid 90s to the mid 80s. And for all of you that watch baseball, you know that basically I had missed my shot for the majors since I had dropped that 10 miles an hour or more. And once I dropped, I really had, I guess there was, I started to have problems, and I started to find out, figure out what else I could do, because up until that point, I wanted to be in the major leagues. At this time, I talked to my mother, and she told me that, I needed to start looking at different schools and colleges that I wanted to go to. So I looked at Morehouse College. I looked at Grambling and some of the other schools that had still given me scholarships to go and play baseball. But in my heart, I felt that I couldn't play to my best potential. So I decided not to move forward with any of those baseball scholarships and went on to Morehouse College because they graduate the most African-American males that go on to medical school, which was the decision that my mother and I came up with that would be the best for me. So I go to Morehouse College, and at this time, I told you all that I had come from uh, a happy home of two parents, but in 1996, my parents became divorced. So uh, I was raised by my mother from that point. Um, Went into Morehouse College, didn't really know what to expect, wanted to be a doctor, or at least I thought that I did. Um, and at this time, I had a little bit of a culture shock because at Morehouse College, it is an all Black male school, but you start to realize that you aren't the best anymore. You know, there's a million best, there's 1,000 best of you. So I go on to Morehouse, um, have problems really finding out what it is that I want to do. My junior year at Morehouse, well, the summer between my sophomore year and my junior year at Morehouse, I go to Duke University Medical School for the Minority Medical Education Program. Now, on in this education program, you go on pseudo rotations, and you actually take some coursework uh, that will go towards your college curriculum. So, um, the big thing that I want you to really pay attention to is these pseudo rotations. I wanted to become a pediatrician. So these pseudo rotations, they actually were in the neonatal care unit, the family practice unit, the pediatric unit, and the ER unit. And the neonatal care unit are for premature babies. So I would go back and forth, and sometimes babies would pass and they would die. And that was one thing that I really couldn't deal with. Went to the pediatric unit, and there was a young child that his appendix burst, and I had never heard a child scream like that before. Worked in the ER unit, and this man's face was falling off because he was in a motorcycle accident. So I went back to school and really had to think about what it is that I really, really wanted to do. And I know some of you may not know exactly what it is that you want to do right now, and that's okay. Just keep trying to find out what it is that you enjoy doing, what hobbies you're good at, and it will come. So I get back to school, and there's this young lady that I'm dating, and she goes through the papers on my desk, and she finds some sketches, and she happens to be in the fashion department at Clark Atlanta University. So she looks at these sketches and she says, "Carl, where'd you get these at? These are really good. Like, who did these?" And I told her that I sketched them. I like to sketch in my free time. And she said, "These are really good. You should take some fashion courses." So, I said, "No, I don't know. Sewing is for girls, but okay, I'll try it out." Ended up going over to Clark Atlanta University and fell in love with the fashion department over there. And from there on, I was sewing, sketching, draping, and doing everything with fashion. After I graduated, I actually worked in a management program at Hollister because it was hard for me to find a tailoring position, which is what I knew I wanted to become. So I went to around to Brooks Brothers and K&G, and they basically told me that they wouldn't hire me, even though I told them that I would work for free and let them see what it was that I could do and how good I was until they made a decision. So I didn't get hired by them, but I started to work with a tailor. I started to apprentice under a tailor. And he actually taught me some of the skills that I now use every day. I worked for him for about 3 or 4 months. And then after that, I started to work for, I don't know if you all know, Janelle Monáe. At that time, she was a local entertainer in Atlanta. And also Derek Watkins, who people know him as Farnsworth Bentley. And these were two of my friends that really kept me on the path to keep moving forward. And I think if it wasn't for them, I don't really know where I would be at, because at that time I was really at a low point. So what we all need to do while becoming entrepreneurs or reaching our goals is surrounding ourselves with like-minded people, with people who support us, um, who also are as hungry and want to work hard as we do. So I worked with them up until maybe 2009. And that was right after Hurricane Katrina. And it was really hard for me in Atlanta to find a position anywhere because for you all that don't know how the times were during Hurricane Katrina, we had this influx of people coming into Atlanta that were getting away from the hurricane catastrophe that occurred in Louisiana and Tennessee. And people were coming into Atlanta, so the job market was flooded. So now, even if I wanted to get a retail position, I wasn't only going against my peer, or I wasn't only competing with my peers, but I was also competing with my peers' kids or my peers' parents and things of that sort. I couldn't find a job, really was still trying to work in the fashion industry. And I got a call from one of my friends in New York, and he told me, he said, man, you really need to move up to New York to do fashion. A lot of jobs are starting to move up here. I think that you would have some great opportunities. So I ended up moving up to New York in, I think it was like 3 weeks after that. I moved up to New York with $500 and 2 bags. And I moved up there with a young man. His name is Michael Schuler. And we were moving up there together. We didn't know where we were going to live, but all we knew is that we wanted better for our lives. So we get to the airport and they tell me, they say, Mr. Bowen, they say, Mr. Bowen, your bags are overweight. And I was like, oh man, this is the only thing, like, why is this happening to me? And they said, okay, well, your bags are gonna cost $150 since they're overweight. So now I'm down to $350. Don't know where I'm gonna live. Um, just don't know anything, but I'm still excited because this is a new adventure and I know I'm gonna kill it in New York. So we move up there. We end up calling our friend who had told me to move up there once we get there to New York. And he says, okay, you all can stay with me in this basement of a brownstone that I'm living in. So we ended up staying there for a couple weeks. And the next morning I hit the ground running. Started going to J.C. Penney, Lord and Tailor, all the department stores. And my plan was to tell them, you know, I knew how to make suits, so it would be easy for me to sell a suit. I ended up at Macy's, Herald Square, which is the flagship and largest Macy's in New York, or in the world. And I had to basically talk them into hiring me because they said that I was overqualified. And long story short, they hired me in the Hugo Boss section. 1 year later, I actually obtained a job as an assistant buyer at Ross Dress for Less, which is a department store, a discount department store. So I basically worked these 2 jobs, and then I would tailor for celebrities at night and in the afternoon and on the weekends. Around this time, I met a young man. He's a little older than me. His name is Kevin Mays. And I actually met him that day when I was hired by Macy's. I was walking down the street and saw him with a Mood Fabrics bag. And he actually told me where Mood was. We exchanged numbers. Fast forward, this is the young man that called me in 2013 and told me that I should move back to Atlanta because they needed tailors for the movie industry. So I ended up moving back to Atlanta after working for Ross, Dress for Less, as an assistant buyer. And during your journey to becoming an entrepreneur, you're going to have haters, you're going to have doubters, you're going to have people that try to talk you off your course. But I just want you to know, just stay true to who you are, and nobody can see your vision as big as you can in your own mind. So just keep pushing forward. And I say that because when I ended up moving from New York, my boss, who was my buyer, I told him, I said, I got a job as a tailor for a movie down in Atlanta. I just got hired, so I'm going to have to leave, and I'm going to have to resign from this job. I had been there for 3 years. And he tells me, he says, so they're going to pay you to tailor? Are you even that good? And he said, well, how much are they paying you? Because they can't be paying you that much. And I just kept my cool, even though I was pissed off. And I said, actually, they're going to pay me over double what you all pay me. And I shook his hand and I walked out the door. Fast forward to my first movie set, which was Barely Lethal. And there are going to be some times along this road when you don't feel adequate. You don't feel like you're worthy. And this was definitely one of those times for me. I started tailoring for this movie, and the things that I felt in my mind were not the same things that people were thinking that were around me. I carried myself well. I made sure that I was on time. I was very personable. But also, I was a very good tailor, and I am a very good tailor. But I still had these thoughts in my head, and didn't think I was adequate enough, didn't think that I could do the job, and just kept asking myself all these questions and worrying if I was good enough. Now, when I finished the first movie, I started to get so many calls to work on another job, because in the movie industry, you're basically hired for maybe 3 or 4 months or however long that duration of the film is. And I talked to the designer after that show, and excuse me, and I asked her, I said, I didn't think that I was this good. How well did I do? And she was amazed that I even felt that way, because she said, you're doing so well. I can tell that you have this drive. So I just want to let you know, don't talk yourself out of a situation that you're in only because you don't feel adequate. You are worthy of whatever it is you put your mind to. And those ideas that you have them for a reason. They were instilled in you for a reason. And that is for them to come to fruition. So don't ever question yourself. Don't ever question your capabilities. You're here for a reason. You have those ideas for a reason. And that really helped me out a lot. And now to this day, that designer is like my second mother. And she's hired me on so many other movie sets, such as Just Mercy, All Eyes on Me, if you saw that, and several more movies. She is also, I remember I was working on this movie called Miracles. I think it was called, what was it called? Miracles from Heaven, I believe, or something like that. Miracles from Heaven. And I was sitting in the back of the truck, and I just love working for this lady. Her name is Francine Jameson Tanchuk. And whenever she would call me and ask me to work on a movie, I would I didn't even care what it was. I didn't care what celebrities were working. I would just do it just to be around her. And I remember I was working on Miracles from Heaven, and I was in the back of the truck sewing, and she just came up to me and she said, "Hey, Carl, would you like to work on Black Panther? I think you would be a good tailor on Black Panther. I think that would be really good for you." And I was astonished. And I said, yeah, I would love to work on that. And she said, well, I know Ruth Carter, who is the designer, and you would be great for it. So she calls up Ruth right there while I'm on, um, right there while I'm on the truck. And she says, "Hey, Ruth, just wanted to call you. I know you all are gearing up for Black Panther, and I have a young man that is a great tailor. He's young. He's one of the youngest tailors that I know of, especially down here in Atlanta and even out there in LA where you're at. And I think it would be great." So it was her, because of her, and also the young man I told you about that was also a tailor that called me to move down to Atlanta. He was the head tailor of Black Panther. And he also put in a good word for me. So once I walked on to set, um, she told me that Kevin had said something as well. So just make sure that you all don't ever burn bridges, just because, you're at someone is above you or below you right now, they could also be above you or below you in the future. So just always be nice to people and don't ever burn your bridges. Um, Also, right after that, so I'm working on Black Panther. I start working on Black Panther, and again, I have a feeling of inadequacy. And now this time it's because I'm on this big set. Um, I'm basically I didn't really go to school for fashion. I'm mostly self-taught, um, and I'm also the youngest tailor. So um, when I'm there, Ruth asked me to make some of the biggest pieces on the movie. And this kind of creates a little hatred in some people. And so I have to deal with that along with everything else that I'm already feeling. So just make sure that you all are so strong minded that you can cancel out the world around you so that you can see, what you have in your mind come to fruition, because it's so important. And, you know, each and every one of you are needed. Um, I, after that, actually I was supposed to go into business with two other designers, whom one of them I met on Black Panther. So they come and approach me and ask me to go into a design co-op. And I'm like, yeah, that's amazing. I would love to go into this design co-op with you. Please show me the location. So we go over to the building. I think it's amazing. I'm walking into the front office, and right before I walk into um, what is now my showroom, I'm looking around and I'm thinking, man, this would be great if it was mine. And we walk in and they talk to us about everything, what would be needed from us. We tell them what we want to do with this space. And then we leave, get everything together. Um, as far as our first month's rent, last month's rent, um, and put together our business plans and everything like that. Um, May 1st of 2017, I get a call because this is the day that we're supposed to move into this business. Um, And it seemed surreal then, but they both told me that they couldn't move um, into this co-op with me. So I'm, taken back. Don't know what I'm going to do because I had kind of put all my eggs in one basket. And they say, we can't do it. I don't know what you want to do, but we just can't do it. So I called the secretary of the leasing department, and she says, well, what are you going to do? And I said, well, I would still like to move forward, but I don't know how I can. And she says, okay, well, just pray about it. So pray about it, call her back, tell her I want to move forward, ask her if she could create a meeting with myself and the man who owns all of these buildings. So I end up meeting with him, tell him my vision for what I have in that store, what I can do. And then he says, all right, well, let's move forward. And it was at that time that I understood that God had just handed me a business that he believed I was capable of. So that's how Carl Ulysses and my showroom actually opened. And after that, everything started to fall together. I still, at that time, was making clothing for movies, but mostly from my showroom. And also gained a larger clientele, both celebrities and doctors, lawyers, anyone that needed alterations, needed clothes made. And fast forward to now, I'm still at my showroom, Carl Ulysses, and getting ready to create a line of clothing and accessories, watches, driving gloves, um, overcoats, suits, women's wear, shoes. So just don't ever stop betting on yourself. Don't ever stop continuing to believe that what you have in your mind can be created. You have to think about it. Jeff Bezos, Mark Zuckerberg, they all started out with nothing more than a vision. And because of their belief in self, they their vision started to come to fruition. And one of the things that I always believe in, one of my mottos is believe in yourself so much that you create belief in others. And that is so true because there's no way that somebody can believe in your vision if you don't share it with them. And you have to believe wholeheartedly in your own vision before anyone else can. So thank you all so much for having me. And thank you, Shanika.
Thank you, Carl. I mean, that was an amazing glimpse into just your entrepreneurial journey. And I mean, really appreciate you taking the time to just take us on that journey and see that glimpse of what you went through to make it to where you are. We do have a few questions here. We have a question from Anna Karen, and she asks, were there any mentors you particularly were close to?
Um, so most of my life, I have had a few mentors, but they weren't someone that have been in contact throughout my whole process. So one mentor that I had at first, well, one mentor that we all have is my mom. A mentor is really nothing more than someone that helps you put things into perspective and make decisions on, your life, your business, and things of that sort. So my first mentor was really my mom. And then once I started to tailor, I had a mentor. I worked for him. I only worked for him for like 3 months, and younger brother. And I talked to him a whole lot, and he helped me make business decisions. So, you know, my mentors might have been a little bit different from what you would think the construct of mentorship is,
Okay.
but they helped me in the same ways that mentors help other people.
Okay. Were there any books that you recommend for those that are working on their on goals? Did you have anything that you used?
Um, there are a lot of books that I started to read. One of them was The Alchemist, and from The Alchemist, I really started to, I guess, I wasn't taught money management skills really per se. I started to learn more about how you should save 10% here, 30% to self, things like that. Tipping Point was another book that I read that I really appreciated. um, Millionaire Next Door, some of those things. So just empowerment books, entrepreneurial books, um, and that were really, I guess, centered around my niche or where my mind was.
Okay. So, when dealing with self doubt outside of the external input, what forms of internal input did you use to keep yourself motivated? I know you mentioned the books. Were there anything else that helped, kept you motivated throughout these times?
Um, so one time that was really hard for me was when I moved to New York. I was broke, like broke. And one of the things that really helped me, I pledged Kappa Alpha Psi. So that really helped me. I pledged right before I moved. So maybe 6 months before I moved. And it was some things within that brotherhood that actually taught me to stay focused. There's a poem. It's called Be Strong. Be strong, for we're not here to play, dream, or drift. We have hard work to do and heavy loads to lift. Shun not the struggle, for it is God's gift. Be strong, be strong, be strong. And that's a poem that I would recite each and every time that I had doubt, you know. Each and every time when I was in New York, I was eating peanut butter and jelly sandwiches 3 times a day for 9 months and drinking nothing but water. I was sleeping on an air mattress. Um, so I had $5 in my pocket and had to figure out if I wanted to eat or I wanted to ride the bus.
Wow.
So I mean, but I am thankful that those things happened to me because they shaped the type of entrepreneur that I am. And I think that when you go through things like that, you kind of have to embrace those challenges and understand that this isn't here to break you, it's only here to mold you. So it's all about how your mindset is during those times. Because I could have just been like, F this, I hate this, like, why does it have to be like this? And if you put out all of that negativity into the world, that's what you're going to get back, you know? Um, and I say that because if I wasn't always super positive, I wouldn't have been able to come into contact with the people that I did. Um, I think that positivity kind of fed some of those relationships, and you just have to know that you're always going to be okay. You, as an entrepreneur, it is rough. It's going to be a whole lot rougher than it sooner than it will be better, and you just have to accept those challenges and know that they're going to shape me and they're going to shape your story, and just know, you know, that you have always been taken care of. So you have to realize that you always will be taken care of and everything is going to be okay.
That's amazing. Awesome. We have a question from Marina. Do you have any advice for not ending up on the wrong career path?
um I think that you just always have to be open. You have to be open to trying new things. You have to be open to going down a path that may not be exactly how you want it to be. Um, I mean, if I wasn't open to the possibility of fashion and just said, okay, nah, that sewing thing is for girls, which I thought at that time, I never would have found, you know, what I love. So you have to be open to learning new hobbies. You have to be open to trying things in other people's ways. Make sure you stay true to yourself and to who you are, and you don't do anything outside of yourself. But I don't think that trying things will hurt at all.
Yeah, that's awesome advice. So I want you to brag a little bit about yourself. Talk about, you
Uh,
know, what was your favorite movie that you worked on, or list some of the celebrities that you worked with. Of course, I follow you on Instagram and Facebook, and I see all the celebrities and things that you've done. So, um, could you let us know your favorite movie and maybe some of the celebrities you've worked with?
um, Favorite movie. I think one of my favorite movies that I worked on, of course, is Black Panther. But another one that I really enjoyed working on was All Eyes on Me, which was the story about Tupac Shakur. Um, and I enjoyed it so much just because it felt like family. You know, I'm really good friends with Demetrius Shipp, who played Tupac, and there were just other people that everybody was just so loving, and everybody was just wanted to work together and felt blessed to work together. Um, I got to make some crazy pieces. I got to make some pieces that uh, were in the movie Juice when I was a kid. We watched the movie Juice. I got to make a jacket from that. I got to make some more iconic pieces. The orange dress shirt that was kind of iridescent that he wore right before he got shot, and pieces like that. So it kind of made me think about where I was at that time when it really happened. Um, and yeah, that was one of the movies that I really love. I also worked on Civil War, uh, the Marvel movie. So I got to work with a guy, Chris. His name is Chris, not Captain America, but Chris Hemsworth, um, who is Thor. I got to work with Dwayne the Rock Johnson before. Uh, Beautiful spirit, wonderful man. Um, yeah, I got to work with a lot of people, a lot of different people. I probably worked with like most most of the actors and actresses. Um, on vacation. Um, I got to work with when we were kids. You know, we loved love and basketball, right?
Yes, definitely.
That we might be, they might not remember that, but I got to work with Sanai Lathan, who I used to be in love with as a child. Brandy, I worked with Brandy, who was just in the verses. Um, and I was in awe every morning because she sang every morning. So yeah, I've been blessed.
Wow. Wow. Amazing. Amazing. So I'm going to take one last question here. And what is something you wish you could have shared or wish you could share with your past self?
Hmm. One thing that I really wish is the motto that I said to you. Believe in yourself so much that you create belief in others. It took a long time for me to really realize that. It took a long time for me to really realize the one little thing that our parents used to tell us all the time: you can be and do whatever you want to do. Like you really can. You really can. And I think too many times we focus on why we're not capable of something instead of why we are. And even if you're not focusing on that, sometimes you might be talking yourself out of a blessing or out of being able to walk into um, into a certain career. I have a whole lot of friends that created career paths. I have a friend that is in the wellness business, and she creates these, I guess, wellness retreats. There was nobody ever doing that before. You really have to believe in yourself and know that what you're creating is needed and worth it, because it is. And I mean, I told you earlier that I'm from a Baptist background. I believe in God, and I don't believe that God would have instilled these ideas within me if he didn't want them to come to fruition. And it's that simple. Why do you have these ideas? If you if you weren't if the things that you didn't want to, or if the things that you want to happen weren't supposed to happen, then why do you have all these ideas? Why do you get so happy when you want to create these, or you think about creating them? Because they're needed and they're supposed to be created. So all you have to do is get out of your own way so that you can create these things. Don't focus on how much money it costs, because that is irrelevant and it doesn't matter. Don't focus on what you need to do it. Just do it. And the things will start to come. People will start to move out of your way, and the money that you need will come. When I opened my business, which I didn't think I was going to open, I just happened to open it by happenstance, to which I thought, but I needed all of these startup costs. Well, I had to ask God and talk to God and say, you know what, God, I relinquish all control to you. I'm going to do what I can so that you can do your part. And somehow, not somehow, but by the grace of God, I came up with $10,000 to start this business from nothing. So I just want to let you all know, don't focus on the things that you don't have. Just focus on what you do have. Do your best to meet God, the creator, whoever you believe in, that he will meet you halfway.
Amazing. Awesome. I mean, you gave us so many golden nuggets that we can take with us. You know, we truly appreciate you taking your time out to speak with us and speak to our students and our faculty and our staff and the community. And we just can't thank you enough. So I want to thank everyone else that stuck with us, and I want to thank you guys for just being here for our first installment of our speaker series. We will have two other speakers. We have a speaker in October 14th at noon, and then we're going to have one in November as well. And you can register at ESS.Highlands.edu for those other speakers. Definitely would love for you guys to come back to hear the other speakers. Just be sure to register. And this was amazing. And please look out for, you will get an email that will ask you for your feedback. And I would love to hear your feedback, and maybe even some suggestions of other speakers you may want to hear from, or other topics you may want to hear about. So be on the lookout for that. And thank you again, Carl, and everyone. Just have a wonderful afternoon.
And thank you so much, Shanika, and everyone on here. I think that all you all should thank Shanika right now. Um, this is a wonderful young lady, and I'll do anything for her that I can. She just is filled with so much love and so much care for others, and I just want you all to know that you all are in good hands with her. God bless her and keep her.
Thank you.
And also, shameless plug, I want to let you all know, if you all are in need of face masks or designer face masks, I'm selling face masks as well on Safeguard, SAFE guard, GUARD, facemask.com. I'll put it in the comments.
If you guys didn't hear that, I will definitely send that out to you when I send out the survey, and I'll send out that information from Carl as well as his social media. I'm seeing his technology, he's a little stuck there, but I will send out all the information to you guys.
Thank you so much, Shanika.
All right, have a good afternoon, everyone.